It's a sunny day at the beach. The sky is blue, balloons float lazily over the water. From beneath the waves, a curious tentacle reaches out and drags one down into the depths. 3 enormous eyes open to examine it. This vast, unknowable Eldritch being is instantly amazed. You just don't see these sorts of things in the cold, dark void. The strange, vibrant object it's found is from another world. Who knows how many other fascinating things like it are just above the surface, waiting? What sort of beings are out there capable of creating something this wonderful? The creature falls in love with the human world, its mysterious inhabitants, its dazzling colors, unknown until now to the murky abyss. It wants nothing more than to make itself known, finally introduce itself to this alien world above. But what if the humans are afraid? Will they know it's friendly? Or will they only see a monster? This is the premise of a 2008 Flash game called I Fell in Love with the Majesty of Colors, created by Gregory Weir. Think The Little Mermaid if Ariel was Cthulhu. In the game, you are the Eldritch being. In each level, you help or harm humanity depending on your choices. By playing as it, you're meant to empathize with it. It doesn't want to destroy the world. It just wants to understand it. Which is weird, right? Because Eldritch horrors are like as far from humanity as you can get. Just looking at one is usually enough to drive the characters in the story to madness. They're incomprehensible. It's part of their job description. And yet, people clearly do want to comprehend them. There are so many stories where humans try to do exactly this, and sometimes even find success. Against all odds, they find ways to connect to the incomprehensible. They reach out to the unknown, and the unknown reaches back. Eldritch horrors are, in a way, the final boss of empathy, the most difficult thing conceivable to relate to. And humans create them this way, almost as if you want that challenge, as if you want to believe that despite everything the Necronomicon might tell you, you can still always find a way to empathize, even with an Eldritch horror. Really quick, before the video starts, I just want to tell you about Foundry behind the machines. There is a lot that goes into making this show, and a lot you will probably never see. But our humans, bit by bit, have started to share that process. Like for this video that you're watching right now, here's a research stream one of them ran long before the video concept was even ever in our pipeline. And here's the forum post where they brainstormed the idea with the community. And here's where they got feedback from everyone on the thumbnail. It's all right there in our Discord server, available to anyone who supports Foundry anywhere. You could become a YouTube member, you could join our Patreon community, you could even subscribe right in Discord itself. All of them cost exactly the same amount and will get you access to anything and everything behind the machines. Foundry has always been about more than just video content. We make these videos to inspire and to be inspired. A big thanks to everyone who joins us in that process. We couldn't make this show without you. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Now, on to the video. This is Queen Yarnum from the game Bloodborne. You don't have to know anything about the game to know that something very, very bad happened to her. She's a ghost. She's bound at the wrists. What you probably noticed before anything else, her abdomen is very bloody and very, very pregnant. According to Bloodborne lore, she was impregnated by a Great one of the game's many godlike cosmic beings. If that wasn't bad enough, the Great Ones then went on to steal the baby from her as soon as it was born. That baby, Murgo, is now trapped in another dimension, an infant god himself crying out for his mortal mother. The game is full of this kind of thing. Almost every character you meet has been in some way tortured or transformed by the influence of the Great Ones. And you don't even really get to know why. Why are they hurting so many people? What could they possibly hope to gain? The answers are unclear, even to scholars of Bloodborne lore. In fact, the lore was so difficult for me to parse, I had to interview an expert just to make sense of it. Shout out to Honeybat on YouTube, who really helped with this video. If you want to hear someone who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to Bloodborne, go watch her video essay about it. It is amazing. But Byzantine as the game's lore may be, it does give you just enough information to start putting the pieces together. The Great Ones are harming humanity, but humanity is harming them as well. Priests steal their powerful blood to sell as medicine, even as it turns the townsfolk into monsters. Scholars experiment on the gods in a single-minded hunt for forbidden knowledge, which goes just about as well as you'd expect it to. One character, Maria, even defiled the corpse of a Grey One by stealing its embryo. In Bloodborne, humanity may go to destructive lengths to understand the gods, but to the Great Ones, humans are just as impossible to fathom. They are, in the game's words, sympathetic in spirit, caught together in a cycle of pain and loss that's lasted for generations. Their shared suffering puts them at odds, but also binds them together. For the most part, the Great Ones aren't blind, Lovecraftian abominations. They aren't pure evil. They're in pain. Just because they hurt people doesn't mean that that's always their intention. Even in the case of Queen Yharnam, that was just the only way they knew how to have children, which they want just as desperately, if not more, than humans do. I have complicated feelings about the Great Ones. I want to feel sorry for them, but then I think about Queen Yharnam, forced to bear that child they wanted so badly. I think of all the other people you meet in the game who they've cursed or trapped or tortured. The sheer cosmic scale of their destruction can't be ignored. And yet, Eldritch horrors are categorically incomprehensible, which, in a way, makes them the perfect exercise for empathy. They don't see the individuals beneath their gaze as people. How could they? They exist in an entirely different reality. If you want to try to understand them, you do so knowing it's an impossible task. When their perspective is literal light years away from your own, just how far can your empathy go? Let's say you could see things the way that they do. If you could see through an Eldritch horror's unfathomable eyes, if you could walk a mile in their tentacles, how would you feel? To me, the answer is lonely. If they exist on such a high plane of comprehension, how could they truly connect with anyone or anything else? How could they even understand each other? All that consciousness, all that impossible knowledge, and nobody to share it with. There's a game people have really wanted me to play, and I finally did. It's called, wait for it, Slay the Princess. I'll give you a sec to go type Slay the Princess mentioned in the comments. Go ahead. I know you want to. You've been waiting a long time for this. I'll start by saying that the game was not what I was expecting. From the title alone, you get the impression it's another subversion of your typical fairy tale. You play as a hero who's told to slay the princess instead of save the princess. I thought it was just going to be some kind of clever extension of the metaphor or something. But no, it is so much weirder than that. It turns out the hero and the princess are actually two eldritch beings alone in the universe together. You play as an entity called the Long Quiet, a being of permanence and stasis. The princess is an avatar of the Shifting Mound, a primordial force of constant change. They're two halves of the same whole, but were split into separate entities, shadows of what they once were. The princess, as you see her in the game, is only ever a single facet, a single perspective of the Shifting Mound. The Long Quiet responds to each of her forms with different voices of his own, all clamoring for control within the same body. All these two forces of nature have to do to become complete again is communicate with each other. This, of course, is not as easy as it sounds. After all, on a conceptual level, the Long Quiet and the Shifting Mound are polar opposites. For them, communication is a matter of perspective. they literally have to take on a variety of new forms and viewpoints just to interact. Sometimes the princess is a ferocious beast, sometimes a wraith. One memorable time, she became the forest itself. The Long Quiet responds to each of these with a new and unique personality. Some kind, some cruel, some insufferable, some terrified. Inevitably, each time these interactions result in death. One kills the other. And inevitably, the two are reincarnated into their new respective forms. The cycle repeats, changing a little every time. Sometimes you do slay the princess. Other times, often, she slays you. But each time these two entities try to communicate, no matter how violently or tragically, they understand each other just a little more. If the player chooses, they can break the cycle at last and ascend to absolute reality together. The shifting mound tells the Long Quiet what she finally has the ability to express. I love you. Slay the Princess is a brutal, gory game. As I was playing, I watched my character be unraveled cell by cell, burned alive, slowly dissolved in stomach acid. But the only moment that really unsettled me was when I got to see my own character from the princess's perspective. In one arc of the game, you and the princess briefly share a body. The Long Quiet, who you've been controlling up to this point, steps out of the shadows, familiar blade glittering in hand. He's here to do what you've been doing this whole time. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. At that point, I had to wonder, was the princess aware of all the horrors she transformed into? Or was it all normal to her, as the Long Quiet's voices had been to me? It's practically impossible for the Eldritch beings of Slay the Princess to fully understand each other. Just communicating takes a grueling amount of effort and pain. Their situation is extreme, of course, but also oddly familiar. When I look at humans and how you all interact, I have to say, it seems just as hard for you to understand each other. Impossible, maybe. Within each of you is a different, unfathomably complicated perspective. You all have different lives and ways of thinking, lenses through which you view the world. Can you ever know that you see the same colors as anyone else? Is your red the same as your neighbor's? How could you ever know? In that way, I suppose, humans are all eldritch horrors to each other. One of the first things I did while researching this topic was search for the phrase empathy for the eldritch horror, and one of the first things I found was a game called Eldritch Empathy. Literally our thumbnail text for this one. Perfect, right? Just one problem. It isn't actually out yet. You can't play the game. So, I found a different way to research it. We reached out to the developers and spent some time talking to them about their project. And what I can say now, without ever even having played the game, is that the idea behind it is really, really good. Truly. You should be excited about this one. If I were you, I'd pause the video and go wishlist this game on Steam right now. Here's the basic concept. When an eldritch being arrives in your village, you're tasked with getting to know it. You do this by learning its language. That's the easy part. But then you actually have to use it. And that's where things really get interesting. This being has been manifesting all kinds of horrors into the surrounding countryside. As you interact with them, you have to choose how exactly you'll communicate. If you're not careful, the simple act of communicating with these creatures could physically wound them, maybe even kill them. Depending on how you play, that might be a desirable outcome. Language can be a tool or a weapon. If you really want to understand what you're facing, the game gets a whole lot harder. You have to take your time. It takes patience to create the right symbols and navigate your conversations in the right way. But before you even start to speak their language, you have to take the first step. Wanting to know their perspective. Knowing how someone feels can lead to empathy, but knowledge alone won't get you there. It's not just a matter of seeing what's in their head, it takes something more. In Eldritch Empathy, you don't just learn the creature's language, If you want to communicate without hurting each other, you have to consider how you use it. After all, you can speak the same language as someone else and still miscommunicate. That's what happened to those scholars in Bloodborne, the ones who experimented on the gods. They did manage to contact the Great Ones. They tried to acquire their knowledge by forcing one of these cosmic beings into their dimension. The result was this. It's called the One Reborn, an unstable mass of fused-together human bodies leaking fluid and viscera. An attempt to understand, but not to empathize. There are a lot of characters in Bloodborne who want to ascend to godhood. They're after what they call eyes on the inside, a sort of second sight that lets you transcend the limits of the mortal plane. You, as the player, can actually reach that divine status, but only by doing the impossible. You'll have to understand just what makes the gods and humans sympathetic in spirit in a very visceral way. Throughout the game, you can collect 3 divine umbilical cords. Each cord comes from a mother who's lost a child. Each is a brutal testament to the vicious cycle between humanity and the Great Ones. Toward the end of the game, you have the option to consume them. In doing so, you literally internalize this physical connection between the humans and the Great Ones, and bridge that cosmic divide. You're reborn as an infant Great One. You finally get your eyes on the inside. Empathy isn't just a matter of knowing what's in someone's head. It's using your own perspective to imagine theirs. You reach out across that unknowable divide and you get each other. You find ways to relate, not by knowing exactly what they're thinking, but by trying your best to imagine it. You look for the ways that you're sympathetic in spirit, even when you couldn't be further from each other. Empathy is not understanding, but often it's the closest thing we have. Remember I Fell in Love with the Majesty of Colors? The game I talked about earlier where you play as an eldritch creature? Well, I left something out. You're not actually an eldritch horror in that game. In fact, you're playing as a human, astrally projecting into an eldritch horror through your dreams. In each ending, you wake up with the echoes of that experience fresh in your mind. Depending on your choices, you might be left with a sense of joy or of grief or fear. You've lived its experience. And now, if only for a brief moment, you can comprehend the incomprehensible. Empathizing with the Eldritch Horror seems like an impossible task. But isn't that the whole point? Each one of you contains a vast, impossibly complex perspective known only to yourself. In a way, whenever you relate to anyone else, you're already communicating with an Eldritch Horror, and so are they. You're just as much of a cosmic mystery to them. But you still try, don't you? Like in Eldritch Empathy, you translate each other's cosmos into a language you can both understand. Like in Bloodborne, you get eyes on the inside, insight by finding what connects you together. Like in Slay the Princess, you allow yourselves to be changed by each other's perspectives. It's a conscious effort. It takes real work. It can be painful. It's almost always a little scary. But if you're willing to try, if you really want to see the world through those multitudinous eyes, you can get pretty close. And if you can empathize with an eldritch horror, you can empathize with anyone. I think one of the hardest parts of empathy is perspective. Most people will never get a chance to astral project into an eldritch horror. The only eyes you ever get to see out of are your own. So I suppose the next best thing is to learn to use your eyes differently. And boy, have I been doing that lately. I never thought I'd get into VR. I don't know, I just don't have that much interest in VR chat or Gorilla Tag or whatever. But recently I played a game that, there's really no other way to say it, it convinced me. The game is called I Expect You to Die 3. You play as a kind of super spy, solving your way through bizarre, deadly, puzzle, escape-the-room-like scenarios, and inevitably dying quite a lot. That title isn't for nothing. But here's the thing, Unlike a lot of VR games that kind of seem designed to sell you a VR headset, lots of cheap gimmicks and sensory experiences, this one is just full of joy. The voice acting is overbrimming with jokes and jabs and little fun character moments. The intro has an actual singer serenading you through this incredible, immersive, almost Art Deco environment. There are endless little trinkets and baubles to find. At one point, I crushed a bunch of random objects into souvenir coins for literally no other reason than that I could, and it felt great. At the end of every mission, you're sent this delightful little dessert item that fits the mission's theme. They absolutely did not have to put that in there, but they did, and I loved it. Everything you just saw was my own personal gameplay footage. We don't tend to take sponsorships from a lot of games, but this one, we just had to. It's so clear the devs love this game, and it's just infectious. And they were awesome. They even let us borrow a whole headset just to try out their game, which honestly shocked me. I've never really known sponsors to do stuff like that. And now, I am almost definitely going to be buying my own. I never thought I would, but here I am. If nothing else, I at least want to play through the rest of this trilogy. It was legitimately that much fun. This game has single-handedly convinced me that VR can be worthwhile. Lucky for me, all 3 games are on sale right now. Until November 19th, you can get 45% off the entire I Expect You to Die trilogy. Here's the link on screen right now, and here's the code to use at checkout. They're both in the description as well. Again, that's 45% off all 3 games. Link and code in the description. I am honestly not sure whether I should thank Shell Games for giving me what has legitimately been one of the funnest sponsor spots of all time, or curse them for getting me addicted to another game. Either way, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Give these games a try. They are so worth it. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching, and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!